Hello everyone. Hostage stories can be really horrible. It's not surprising that they're used so often in various films. It's a good way to keep the audience on edge, but that can happen not only on the big screen. Sometimes normal people can become victims of criminals, and their last hope is waiting for a miracle and asking for help in such a way that the aggressor won't be aware of it. It's much harder than it looks, but our heroes in today's video can say that luck was on their side. Now, first things first, let's get it on. Pizza for the rescue. Surely you've used some app to order a takeaway at least once. It's handy and saves time. And in emergency situations, it can also save lives. So, a resident of Avon Park, Florida, kidnapped by her boyfriend, was able to contact the police through a pizza delivery request. Cheryl Treadway, 25, had a fight with her 26-year-old boyfriend, who is also the father of her 3 children. Ethan Nickerson took away her phone and threatened her. He didn't let Cheryl leave the house. After a long fight, Cheryl managed to convince Nickerson that the children were hungry and needed to order pizza if they couldn't get out of the house. The woman was lucky because her boyfriend agreed. Then on the app, the woman chose a small pepperoni and wrote, "Please help me, call 911. She also left a comment, 911 hostage help, which was noticed by Pizza Hut's staff. Later, Candy Hamilton, the restaurant manager, confessed that in 28 years of her job, that was the first time something like that had happened to her. Of course, she immediately called the police. When law enforcement arrived at the scene, Treadway was able to leave the house with 1 child, but the 2 others stayed with their father. During the negotiations, the police managed to persuade Nickerson to release the children and surrender to the police. The man was charged with kidnapping, armed assault, and obstruction of justice. Note in the bathroom. Once, Alaska Airlines stewardess Sheila Fedrick noticed 2 strange passengers on board, a well-dressed man and a messy teenage girl. She seemed tortured and very frightened. When the man didn't let the stewardess talk to her, it just increased Sheila's suspicions. Then Fedrick silently signaled the girl to go to the bathroom, where she's left her a note on the mirror. The girl asked for help on that same piece of paper. It turned out that the teenager became a trafficker's victim. Fedrick immediately reported the incident to the pilot and was able to notify the police in advance. As a result, the abuser was arrested. This happened in 2011 and fortunately had no impact on the girl's life. She grew up, went to college, and is still in contact with Sheila. After all, it all happened thanks to her vigilance. When the news broke, airline ambassadors launched a campaign to educate crew members on how to deal with kidnapping cases. Noticing something wrong is easy if you pay attention to the details. Victims may seem scared to be around people in uniform. They may not know the final purpose of the trip. They may respond with prepared phrases and be dressed too strangely for the destination. In turn, abusers often answer questions for their victims and don't know the details of their personal life. In general, stay alert. That can save someone's life. The Morse Code. Jeremiah Andrew Denton Jr. served as a U.S. naval pilot during the Vietnam War. He was shot down over the city of Tan Hoa in North Vietnam, and the crew was captured. Denton spent almost 8 years in prison, most of them in solitary confinement. Of course, the life of a prisoner of war was hard, but no one knew how difficult it actually was. In 1966, he was involved in a television interview with the North Vietnamese authorities. It was during that interview that Denton was able to inform the U.S. intelligence services that he and his crew were tortured and ill-treated. Thus, while answering the interviewer's questions, Denton pretended that he's sensitive to light and blinked Morse code. He blinked the word torture several times. And since the interview was broadcast on American television, it was the first confirmation of the worst. On February 12, 1973, Denton was released in Hanoi by the North Vietnamese, along with many other American prisoners of war during Operation Homecoming. He was later awarded with the Navy Cross and other medals for his heroism. The Pizza Delivery Guy. Yes, another story about the message and miracle of rescue associated with pizza. Perhaps we underestimate this dish. In the American town of Waldo, Wisconsin, a pizza delivery man saved a woman who was kidnapped by her ex-boyfriend. When Joey Grundle, 24, brought a pizza, he saw a woman inside the house. She didn't look good and had a black eye. The woman was behind the person who ordered the pizza, so he couldn't see her, but Joey saw her perfectly. She pointed to the black eye and whispered in silence, "Help." Then the woman added, "Call the police." When the pizza delivery guy returned to the car, he immediately dialed 911 and told the police what he'd seen. When the sheriff's deputies arrived, they discovered that it was the landlady's ex-boyfriend who had ordered the pizza. He entered uninvited, attacked the woman, tied her up, and took her hostage. As a result, the intruder confessed that he had a gun in his car. The man was charged with domestic violence and kidnapping. The Wordless Request. Sometimes you just have to be attentive to help a person in a terrible situation. So, a Kangaroo Express employee once noticed that a woman sitting in a car near a store looked pretty strange. She said nothing, but gestured that she needed help right now. It was 1 o'clock in the morning, but the police arrived pretty quickly. It turned out that the woman was kidnapped by a guy named Jose Ramos Sandoval. When the assailant offered her a ride, the woman thought that he was her friend's friend, but quickly realized she'd made a mistake. Attempts to leave the car led to nothing. Because Sandoval was forcing her to stay while driving in an unknown direction, she could only be asking for help in silence. The woman understood that that unknown friendly employee might be her only chance to escape. Fortunately, she got lucky. The following stories aren't about hostages. The heroes mentioned didn't expect to be rescued, nor any other help, but still, these stories are worth telling. Protest labels. In 2017, customers at Zara's Istanbul store discovered unusual labels on their garments. The labels weren't the ones that give you the recommendations on how to care for the clothes, but turned out to be complaints from Turkish workers about the unreceived payments. The workers came to the shops and put additional papers on the clothes with the following text: "You're going to buy this article. I've made it and I'm not paid for it." So, people hope to draw the public's attention to their problem and get Zara to pay them. According to the demonstrators, the company owed them 3 months' wages and didn't pay them severance pay after the closure of one of Bravo's factories. That's where they produce clothes for famous brands like Zara, Next, and Mango. Unfortunately, we don't know exactly how this story ended. The Letter and the Tombstone. One day, Julie Kate from Portland bought a set of artificial tombstones for Halloween and put it aside for a while. When she opened the set a couple of years later, she suddenly found a letter hidden between the tombstones. It was a message, carefully written in blue ink. Although some of the words were misspelled, the meaning was clear. "Dear Sir," said the letter, "if you buy this product from time to time, please send a letter to the World Human Rights Council. Thousands of people will thank you and remember you forever." The note also said that the decoration was done at the 8th branch of Massanjia's work camp in Shenyang, China. Prisoners had to work 15 hours a day, 7 days a week, under the threat of terrible punishment. Julie was shocked. The letter was undoubtedly authentic, and the woman did her best to make the information public. One day, the New York Times contacted Julie to inform her that they'd found the author of the story. It turned out to be a man named Sun Yi. He was in a work camp because of his beliefs and decided to tell the world what was happening behind closed doors. Sun Yi wrote about 20 letters and put them all in boxes with artificial tombstones, but nothing happened. The man was released from Massanjia in September 2010, and then in 2012, while surfing the Western news sites on the internet, found the story about the letter, his letter. It turned out that 4 months after the story of Julia's decorations went viral, a Chinese magazine called Lens published information about the situation in Massanjia. The online version of the story was later removed, but the Chinese authorities seem to have been shocked by the publicity. Shortly thereafter, the government announced the closure of the labor camp system and the release of some 160,000 prisoners. After a while, Sun Yi managed to escape from China and met Julia in Indonesia. It was said to be incredibly moving. A message in a bottle. Usually, you can only find things like a message in a bottle in an adventure literature, but they work in real life too. In 2005, a boat with migrants from Peru and Ecuador suddenly broke off the coast of Costa Rica. The attendants, who were paid a lot of money for their work, got frightened, moved to the other ship, and abandoned the migrants. Yep, just like that, they were left behind. The boat was adrift, the food supply quickly ran out, and the passengers seemed doomed. The last vague hope remained: to throw a bottle with a letter in it into the water. Perhaps there were fishing boats nearby. This bottle could have sailed the ocean for many years, but fortunately, the fishermen found it only 3 days later. They reported it to the local authorities, and the boat was discovered quickly. The passengers, mostly women and children, were very dehydrated, but the story ended well. Hey, stop being lazy, it's time to use that brain of yours. Welcome to Brain Time. Incredible facts from the past, the present, and even the future. The power of nature and wild animals, amazing facts and unsolved mysteries. You'll find all this and much more here. Subscribe now, you won't regret it.